Hey everybody, I'm Maritza Barone, and this is the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. Has there ever been a moment in your life where you heard or read or were told something that you simply could not unhear? Something that caused you to make positive changes so that you could become the best version of yourself? Well, we share this show with access to inspiring and empowering humans who will motivate you to become the happiest, healthiest, kindest, and most compassionate you. Sit back, settle in, and let this be the day you hear something that simply cannot be unheard. Hello and welcome back to Things You Can't Unhear. I am Maritza and very happy to have you join me today on this episode of the show. A little bit of a croaky voice, so please bear with me throughout this interview today. But it sort of adds a little mystery, you know, as a podcaster, it can get a bit old having the same old voice all the time. So here I am with a bit of a deeper little husky tone today coming to you live. Now, today on the show, I've got Joel Green, who is the CEO of Pro Level Training, the National Director of Nike Sports Camps, and a former professional basketball player, plus a renowned motivational speaker, and you will know why after you hear him speaking to me today. Now, Joel has had an amazing career in professional basketball and now transfers those skills to the mindsets of young people and audiences around the world, including his very own TED Talk. Now, today what we talk about on the show is a lot about mindset, a lot about perspective, a lot about tools on how to shift yourself from struggle to flow and how to use experiences in our lives to help us learn, to help us gain, to help us maximize our own potentials. I asked him a question about procrastination at the end of this interview, and he had such a good tool and technique in order to, shift those little barriers that we create for ourselves when it comes to procrastinating and going for our dreams and our goals, and those things that just stop us from moving forward in any which way. So it was a great chat, someone I could really have spoken to for a long time. He gave us incredible little nuggets of information along the way, and I'm really sure you will enjoy this chat with Joel today. He's recently released a book called Filtering: The Way to Extract Strength from the Struggle, and we talk about this a lot in the chat as well. So stay tuned, take a listen, and of course, always, as usual, let me know what you think. And before we jump in, just a quick note to say I love sharing these inspirational voices on the show and also on the many podcasts that I help to produce. So if you feel as though you have something important to say and don't know where to start to bring that to life, could this be the thing you are procrastinating on? Reach out to me to chat. I can help you to bring your voice to life, from finding your confidence, learning how to craft your message, and even finally launching season 1 of your very own podcast. I share my voice so that you can share yours. Well, welcome, Joel. Thank you for joining me on Things You Can't Unhear. Even with this croaky voice of mine, we can have this conversation.
Marissa, thanks so much for having me on. Thank you.
Amazing. Where are you joining me from? I love that we can just have these global conversations so easily these days.
Right. I'm loving it. I'm in New Jersey right now. So
yes. And we've just been talking about the fact that you've never been to Australia yet. So you're going to have to get yourself down here and enjoy the beautiful beaches and weather and lifestyle. And here I am advocating Australia.
Look, that it's a must though. I have to make my way there for sure. I've thought about it for way too long at this point.
So where did you grow up, Joel?
Grew up in Philadelphia, in North Philadelphia, and love it. I love where I'm from. It can be pretty crazy at times still, but I absolutely love where I come from.
What was your upbringing like in Philly? And, I know you've had a bit of a colorful and sort of an upbringing that's had its highs and had its lows and its challenges, but it's made you who you are today. But, that upbringing that we have, those experiences that we have, can craft us into something that you don't want to be, or something that pushes you to excel into a person that you never thought was possible. So I'd love for you to paint a picture for us about the person you were growing up and the environment that you were in. And then we'll look at who you are today and the opportunities you've created yourself.
Awesome. No, I appreciate that. I mean, that's colorful is a good way to put it. You know, it was very, it was challenging, mentally challenging. I'll be honest with you. As a child growing up in North Philadelphia, I grew up in unideal circumstances. I grew up in an abandoned house. You know, the house next to us was also still abandoned. The homeless guy lived there. And, you know, it was just that environment. This was the middle of the crack era of the 80s and early 90s. And it just, I would see, you know, crack vials is on the street as I'm walking past it, picking them up as a kid, not knowing what I'm picking up. And, you know, it was that type of environment, going to sleep and up the street, hearing gunshots as I'm going to sleep and hearing people outside arguing. And just the crazy part was being unfazed by it, right? That was the craziest part in hindsight. Now I think about myself at 5 years old, hearing gunshots in the distance and say, oh, let me just go to sleep now, you know, and just being able to do that. At 6 years old, I was 10 feet away from a shooting myself and nobody else was there outside of the kid that was shot and the two shooters. And I thought I was going to be shot, you know, as I escaped from it and was running away thinking I was going to be next. And, you know, going through traumatizing things like that, it made me see life differently. You know, I began processing things differently to where I complained less. I'll be honest with you. And I still carry that to this day. People have come and told me in business and my friends in life, you don't complain about anything. I'm like, I'm still here. Like I'm grateful for life. And I was humbled early on in life with those experiences, having a knife pulled out on me and called the N-word when I was 9 years old because I was in the quote unquote wrong neighborhood. Going through things like that, it changes you, you know. I lost an older brother, you know, dramatic, you know, in a traumatizing way, you know, I'll say that, as a teenager. And it was just, you know, going through these things is just difficult. But as you mentioned, it made me who I am. And, you know, I'm glad that I processed them and the way that I did and filtered those circumstances and took something from them as opposed to just going through them or just trying to ignore them as if they didn't happen. I faced them and I got something from them. And I got motivation from them. I got energy from those things. And those very same things that were bad actually pushed me forward toward progress.
Oh, that is so key when you say you faced what happened, because so many times people do not. They push them down, they push them away, they ignore them. And then it comes to a breaking point where they'll have a breakdown or they'll unleash on someone else, or they realize they're actually very unhappy, but they've been suppressing those emotions for such a long time. And dealing with something head on allows you to clear that space to come out the other end, doesn't it?
Exactly. I mean, it helps it almost like the negative cancels itself out because you finally faced it. You went toward it as opposed to going away from it because it stays negative at that point. As long as you go in the other direction, it's going to stay exactly how it is. And you're going to always perceive it that way. But the moment you look at it, you try to understand it, you learn from it even. That's when it no longer, you know, can negatively affect you in the way that it originally had. Yeah. And you can use it against itself. And that's what I began learning how to do, you know, begin to use the difficult times against themselves to where I'm not afraid of them anymore. You know, I've told people that high achievers aren't afraid of the dark. And that's a big thing when it comes to high achievers. Like high achievers, successful people, they'll use their dark moments as motivation to make themselves shine that much brighter to where the darkness don't even affect them anymore. And that's what I began doing. I began leaning into my dark moments, the tough times that was tough to face and difficult to face, you know, things that made me cry. I began looking toward those things saying, why does it make me cry? Why do I feel that strong about it to where it brings tears to my eyes? And as I leaned into it, I learned from them. And now they don't make me cry anymore. You know what I mean? Those things that used to hurt me don't hurt me anymore.
I've been listening to a lot of thought leaders. I always do. That's my thing. You know, change makers, thought leaders, amazing people who write professional development books or create these incredible new pathways for people through, you know, finding something completely new and challenging something. And they all say the same thing. They say, question everything, always question everything. And I love how you've done that for yourself. You're questioning how you're feeling, why you're feeling that way. And then through that, it's becoming a pathway for you to excel and achieve and become one of these amazing change makers yourself. which is, you're doing such incredible things. You're speaking on this topic. You're helping the youth through these inspiring sports camps. You've partnered with Nike, all of these amazing successes. And you look at the upbringing that you were in to where you are now, and it's such an amazing pathway that you've created for yourself. What do you think separates achievers, because you were talking about achievers and you work with achievers all the time? What do you think separates achievers from non-achievers in your mind?
It's a massive curiosity, in my opinion. And the fact that, I've studied these individuals, these high achieving individuals, to make myself like them, whether it's been an athlete that I've admired growing up, like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, who I was fortunate to have a great conversation with, about a half hour. I just say 2 minutes with a conversation with someone like that means the world. I got 30 minutes with them and just learned so much. And I just seen how curious these high achieving people are about life, about what's currently in place. They're always thinking, there's something else beyond what's currently in front of me. I know that this is what's always been in place. Here's the current structure. Here's what they say you ought to do in the dogmatic society that we're living in. But they're always thinking, but it has to be something that I don't see, that either already exists or I can make exist. I can create that thing that I'm curious about. And that's one thing I tell people all the time: stay curious. And it keeps you in it gives you a childlike zeal as well, because we lose our imagination as we grow older into our adulthood. And as we lose our imagination, we lose our curiosity. And that's when we start to plateau. We just kind of level out and we stop growing. I love growth. So I'm big on growing my mind by saying, what else can I learn? Okay, I know about this. I want to know a little bit more about that. I love reading on the mind. I love psychology. I love physiology. So I read up on these things to see how I can better myself. So I would say a huge difference is the curiosity or the lack thereof.
You probably like growing physically as well as mentally, do you?
How tall are
you? How tall are you? Just curious.
Exactly. I'm 6 feet. I'm 6'8".
6'8". Yeah. Well, you like growth in all forms of the meaning of the word.
Exactly.
Hey, Joel, I went to an event the other day. You're speaking of curiosity and questioning everything. And I went to this event where a speaker was making a presentation. And he talked about a time when he stood on stage and he said, I'm asking for a volunteer. And he pulled someone out of the audience and he said, I'm just going to ask you one question. Why are you here tonight? And he's like, because I want to learn something. And he said, why? And so he answered again, because I have a business and I want to blah, blah, blah. Why? So he went through this series of asking him 10 why. And by the end of him getting to that 10th why, the guy had explained he was there because he wanted to create impact in his business and become successful, because he wanted to show his family he wasn't a failure. And he ended up in tears. And the process of this speaker asking this volunteer in the audience why 10 times got him to a realization that he had no idea he was even feeling. And he broke down, he felt it, he saw it, and he said it was an amazing, eye-opening experience for him that really led him in a new direction in life. And that was a massive takeaway that I got from listening to that, and something that I think I'm going to be using going forward with people that I am around. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, there's that curiosity again. There's that constant questioning and digging deeper below the surface level.
That is so me. I'm that annoying person that will ask you 8 to 10 different. I mean it. I've done it with other people. So I just released my first book called Filtering. Right, this is the whole method. I can go into it a little bit more later as far as what filtering is. But there's a section to where I wrote about my why, and I said your why should bring tears to your eyes, literally. So I mean, the fact that you said that, because it means a lot to me. I really feel that the reason why you do anything should be so intertwined with your heart that it can make you emotional, because if you're going to do something for a certain reason, that reason should be strong enough. You should be connected to it strong enough to where you don't give up easily, because you can reflect on that why and say, okay, I got to keep going because of that why. My why is my son. I people know me, you know how close we are. We are literally Remington. He's a mini me. He's a mini version of me. Just like, with Austin Powers, he had the mini me. Like that. My son is my son is that. And so everything that I do, I know I'm being watched by him. So I'm very careful about what I do. I know if I ever feel like giving up or not doing something, all I need to do is think about what would he think of me. And I keep going because I know he looks up to me. I know if he sees daddy stop, then he's going to give himself reason to stop at something that he pursues in life. And I refuse to have him have the wrong mentality or mindset in life when that's my purpose is to feed him, right? Is to nourish his mind, to nourish his mentality. So, I love that example you gave about the guy getting into tears because I've done it. I've felt it. I've been on stages and have talked about my son and gotten in tears, because it's that connected to me.
How old's the little guy? How old's the mini me?
He's 9. He's a big 9.
Is he?
He was taller than his teacher last year in 3rd grade. I'll say that.
I love that. That's so cool. So tell me about basketball for you. Has it always been something that you've grown up with? Why are you so passionate about it? Why have you, you worked as a professional basketball player and now you've transitioned to helping coach and teach people the art and skill of basketball, but also the mindset side of it as well. So tell me about how important basketball is to you and how it started in your life.
Well, basketball is so important for me, sports in general. I played, football, basketball, and ran track, growing up. Basketball was where I knew that was my bread and butter, especially when I just kept getting taller and taller. I'm like, okay, let me stick with this and let me drop the other sports, but it's taken me to so many places. It's taken me all around the world. I've met so many people as a result of it. People that I've admired, as I mentioned earlier, Kobe Bryant and a ton of celebrities that I've played in celebrity games with and just been at different events with. It's done so much for me to where I wanted to do the same for others, right? Not that it would do the exact same thing, but carrying the right mentality, that I have in basketball, you can apply that mentality to wherever you want to go and walk in life. And that's what I'm teaching the kids, to where it's not just about basketball. I'm sneaky when it comes to this stuff. I use basketball as the exterior tool and vehicle, but I'm just trying to get into their minds. I'm trying to help instill in them the right approach, how to persevere beyond anxiety, how to persevere beyond insecurities, how to get beyond, a failure, teaching them that failure is a midpoint, not an end point. You got to just find a way to see it as a detour, not a dead end, and things like that. And I love it for that reason, because I see what it can do for an individual. It brings about a certain level of self-confidence, not just basketball, but again, sports in general. And it also teaches a ton of vital life principles and lessons. I was talking to a group of athletes recently and just letting them know, look, your teammates are going to be called coworkers one day. Your coaches are going to be called bosses and managers one day. These referees are going to be called officers out in society. So you got to really lean into what you're learning right now in the youth athletics that you're involved in. Take it serious, because it's going to transition you into society pretty seamlessly if you take it serious now.
That's so true. I love how you said you're cheeky about how you use basketball as the vehicle, because sometimes, and many times I should actually say, men in particular need something manly to be able to feel comfortable enough to step into these conversations, don't they?
Yep, I get it. Absolutely. And I've been an advocate of that. I'm like, I know that that's something that's often needed to bring about a certain emotion or expression. And it's certainly done it for me.
Why do you think men tend to need something like that? Is it an upbringing? Is it a perception that they have around needing to feel manly or strong or whatever that means for them?
It's a conditioning that's perceived, I believe, from childhood. Blue is for boys, pink is for girls, pants is for boys, dresses for girls, things like that. It's conditioning that is difficult to not pick up on because it's been so pushed, by way of the very first cartoon that we see, right? We see princesses, we see princes, we see all these different things. We see the strong muscle man. We see, a dainty women. So it's, so man, we pursue muscle, we pursue strength, we pursue all these things that we pursue power. I'll put it that way. We pursue power. And along with power comes ego, comes pride, things like that. And, comes a lot of exterior things and, showy stuff. And that's one thing I have no problem admitting, to where a lot of men, we're big on the exterior stuff as opposed to tapping into the interior, because we're trying to get the exterior muscle and, that thing that makes us feel good and prideful. So, it's a conditioning, I believe, that, once I begin to realize that, that's when I begin to work on my interior more, because I'm like, I don't want to be the typical man. I want to be beyond that. I don't want to just be seen as, the average person. I'm big on not being average. That's like an objective of mine. So I began working on my insides more often, just getting in tune with my emotions, because that wasn't me before. The majority of my life, I wasn't in tune with my emotions. I refused to cry. I didn't speak on how I felt. I was very closed off to people. I didn't express myself. I kept my insecurities and my anxieties to myself. But the moment I really began getting in tune with the inside of myself, I began expressing myself, externally, and it's helped me so much, because now I started to see, oh, I'm not the only one going through that. I'm glad I spoke on that. And as I spoke more, I began actually helping other people. And that's what led me into motivational speaking space. And I'm glad I did. But yeah, guys, we kind of cherish a whole lot of exterior things.
What was the turning point for you, Joel? Like, obviously, the title of my podcast is Things You Can't Unhear. And what I aim to do in this podcast is for people to hear something. Far out, can't unhear that. I need to make the changes.
Yeah.
I've had several of those myself where I've gone, oh my God, right, okay, stop. Let's reassess this. Let's do something differently. So you said you were one of those guys with the tough exterior, never crying, never broke below that surface level stuff. And now you've gone deep into the questioning, the curiosity. Do you remember the turning point? Do you remember if there was a conversation or a book or a quote or a person that sparked it within you?
I have a couple of different ones. One more so when I was younger, major turning point that I mentioned earlier, as far as my brother passing. I was 17 years old when that happened. And up to that point, again, I wasn't one to cry much. I wasn't one to express myself much. But when he died, suddenly I needed to cry. I needed to talk and express myself, or else I would have been in this angry, sad space for so long. I wanted to stop living. I'll be honest with you. I didn't really see much to continue for, and as a teenager, how you take things there real fast. You kind of be a little dramatic as a teenager because you haven't been through a whole lot yet. And it wasn't until I began talking with my family, allowing myself to then open up to my friends saying, this hurts, do you know anybody this has happened to? Like I began asking questions like, I need help. And I began processing things in a different way, to where I began actually drawing motivation from my brother's death. And I got the best grades that year I've ever gotten. All of my schooling, I made the honor roll for the first time ever that year. Months after he passed, I got a ton of college scholarship offers because my grades went up, and I was performing such in a crazy way on the basketball court because I pulled that anger and I channeled it onto the court. But that was a great turning point for me. That came by way of something that wasn't so great. Later on in life, this was more recent, I went through a divorce, right? Very rocky marriage. And that was very difficult for me. I grew up with both my parents. To this date, they've been married for 47 years, So for me, I was advocate for a marriage, really pushing for it, not wanting to have anything break apart, really fighting for it. And I love being a father, love being a husband, at the time. And I just didn't want my son to have to experience that either. You know what I mean? So during that time of constant separation, I began really leaning into books and just learning about life, again, questioning life. And what helped me so much was as I questioned life, I did it without emotion. And that's what I coach people on now, to where it's a difference, to where the method of filtering that what I came up with, that's when I began writing, my book about 6 or 7 years ago. And I just developed this tool for myself to break my situations down, just to see if I can literally break it down into particles, because I was overwhelmed by life, right? And I was overwhelmed because I was trying to take it all in at once and just trying to handle it all at once. I had to break it down to make it more manageable for myself, break it into bite-sized pieces to where I can actually ingest it and take it and say, oh, okay, actually, I understand that portion now. I understand that portion. Then I understood everything as a whole after a while. And I just had to find ways to extract, again, it's the title of my book, extract some type of strength from that struggle point. And it made amazing things just begin to blossom and bloom from that, to where I was able to help my son through that time. I was able to help myself through that time. I was able to speak, which was difficult at first, because at the moment I would talk about a certain thing, it would hurt me. But actually I felt stronger after a while as I began to speak on it. And that was a major turning point for me of recent years. That I'm glad that honestly I've been able to persevere through that, because going through that, as I've spoken on it over the recent years, people have come out the woodwork. Wow, thank you for talking about that, because I've been through the same thing and I didn't realize I can go about it that way. And it's been a blessing to other people as a result of me going through it. So I can't say that I hate the fact that I went through it at this point.
You said before earlier that your friends say to you don't complain. We never hear you complain. And I've also read that you don't get angry. You don't fire up. What are the ways? I mean, I was talking to another friend a couple of weeks ago who'd been through a similar thing. He's recently separated from his partner, and he was telling me the story, and he said, I could be the victim, but he was bringing in every positive into the situation as he was telling it. Yes, this sucks, but this happened. Yes, this sucked, but this ended up happening because of that, etc., etc. So he kept pulling in a positive. Is that the same method that you use in order to not complain, not get angry, not feel those unwanted emotions that you have found a way not to do?
Partially, yeah. So it's I know that within every situation, I dare say every situation, there's a seed buried within that situation that can be pulled from that difficulty and watered and cultivated. And if we dare lean into the situation and try to find that seed, we'll be blessed as a result of it, right? And the way I look at it is, seeds don't live on the surface. They're buried beneath the surface. So you got to really dive in and lean into that situation. You got to dig into that situation to find that seed. But once you got it, it's like, this is why I'm in it. I'm in this situation to begin with because I'm built for it. I can handle it, or else I wouldn't be going through it. And so I might as well get something from this thing. So I'm going to dig into it, which is the inverse of what most people would do. I get it. Most people would say, no, I don't want this around, so I'm not going to give it more time. But I'm not giving the problem time. I'm leaning into the problem to try to find a solution for the problem, because usually it's right within it. And that's what I began doing. It's not just so much saying, okay, I went through this, but I'm going to choose a better way. Beyond that, I just know I have a choice of what way I want to go. I know that although things are going wrong, I don't have to go with them. I have a choice to go the other way, and that's just really how I began operating, to where it's like, okay, I'm going through this. I can tell my default wants to just be all upset and angry about it. But, again, I'm big on this NBA mentality that I developed for myself called never be average, and I'm big on not going about things the average way. And I get a high off of knowing that I'm doing things differently. And so I enjoy looking for the better side of things and looking for ways beyond just optimism, but looking for ways that can actually make me better on the other side of that situation.
Yes, 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 yes. I love that. Not just finding the positives, but how can I actually be better? What can I learn from this? What can I teach others about it as well? I'm looking at that book that is sitting on your bookshelf right behind you right now. It looks so cool. And, a book is such an amazing achievement for someone, isn't it? I mean, you mentioned you put a lot of years into crafting this and piecing it together. What was the book writing process like for you? Was it, let's just put all the thoughts that I've got on paper and create this amazing manual, or was it over a long period of time where you've just accumulated all of these insights that you've adapted?
Well, definitely, a lot of years and tears, just going through a lot of life. It began with me just wanting to express myself in some form of fashion, honestly, journaling. So I just opened this Word document on my computer some years ago, probably close to 8 years ago. And I just began writing on joy, right? Here's my thoughts on joy, or here's my thoughts on obstacles. And I would just write a little paragraph and walk away from it. I just leave it alone. And just to get my thoughts out. And I would just do that. And probably about 6 years ago, began doing it often, right? I would have these topics that I may speak on from the stage. I get feedback from people. And I further elaborate maybe on something, a point that I made, and I'll just put it in this Word document. And I had all these different topics, perseverance, opportunities, advancement, growth, comfort zone, all these things that I would just talk about. And I'm like, wait a second. Okay, I can tell this is actually turning into something. Once I was about 20,000 words into this Word document, I said, I need to make this into something. And I came up with the title Filtering again about 6 years ago. And it's as I was practicing this method for myself of just filtering all my circumstances and doing my best to extract again strength from what I was going through to make me better again on the other side of whatever I was going through. That's so important for me. It was an amazing process. And again, once we got near the pandemic, I was just beginning to get serious about it, in 2019, and put myself on a schedule. Once I put myself on a schedule and I made it a part of my work day, that's when it was just clicking for me. And then once the pandemic happened and everybody was stuck at home, including myself, and we had all this time out of nowhere, I was just plugging away. It just became clockwork for me. Fortunately, I was able to finish it.
I love hearing success stories about COVID and lockdowns because, we need to, again, find the positives out of those crappy situations that we were faced with, being stuck at home. But, it's such an achievement, like I said, having that physical book in your hand, but not only just for you, you're able to now pass that on. So you said to me before we hit record, a lot of people kept asking you, do you have something that I can take home with me, a piece of you that I can go and learn from? And here it is. Here's a physical copy of something that you can continue to pass on to people. What do you think? What do you think? Who needs to read this? Who when you were sitting down and writing this book, who is that person in your mind that needed to read it the most?
For me, it was those that are continuing to go through the same stuff over and over and over again. The same issues, the same lessons that seems like it keeps presenting itself. I've realized how cyclic life is. It just, the same lessons constantly tries to present themselves to us to teach us something, but we blow them off. And they come back in another way again, but it's the same lesson. And that's where I said, okay, this book will help people to begin to resolve their issues and stop revolving their issues so they can finally move on to the next phase of life, of enlightenment, or of awareness. And it'll just help those who needs that, a method of perseverance. Like so many times we just try to get beyond stuff as opposed to finding ways to grow beyond what we're going through. And that's a big thing. And that's where the tool Filtering itself will help those that are going through things, the highs and the lows. And that's really what it's about too. We can filter our highs. I've taught people, hey, if you just won something great, you just got a great achievement over here, had a massive accomplishment, lean into that. Find out why you were able to do that. Don't just think it just happened because you did a few things here. Like find out exactly what happened, take those things from it and leave everything else behind. Don't praise yourself for too long. That's going to lead to complacency. Take what you need and move forward with those great things. You can filter every moment of your life. So again, for me, this book is really for those that's looking to get over the hurdles and humps in their lives, that they've been experiencing for way too long. And this is, it's amazing that I'm already seeing reviews from people online and getting direct messages from people. I didn't think, honestly, Marissa, that I would get anything this soon. But the fact that people are going through this book and they're telling me, hey, this portion right here, they're sending me screenshots of different things they highlighted.
Yeah.
Again, number one, that just feels amazing. Like you said, just to have somebody be able to hold my book, it feels amazing. But that's who it's really for those that are looking to not only persevere, but to have success on the other side of that perseverance.
Struggle street and into flow street.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is super cool. All of that resonates so much with me. And even the Word document, actually, I have that Word document that's probably been there for 4 years. And I'm like, okay, every now and then sort of jump into that and feeling something that's really sparked something inspiring within me. I haven't done it for a while, actually. Maybe I should do it soon. But a word just popped up for me that I wanted to quickly ask about before we end: procrastination. So for people who are those procrastinator types, because I get so frustrated, I'm like you, I get frustrated with people who are stuck in the same rut and continuously experience the same thing over and over again with a different packaging.
Yep.
So
Right.
because it's like, come on, man, you got to change something. Something's got to
Exactly.
change. Otherwise, you're going to experience the same thing over and over again.
Hmm.
For those who procrastinate on things, who maybe want to start a new business, for example, or want to have more joy in their relationships or create new friendships with like-minded people, whatever it is that they're procrastinating on, what's your advice around sort of just starting, moving forward, taking that first step?
Well, again, it's funny because I work with Nike, national director for Nike sports camps, and we have three, words on our back all the time. Just do it, right? So I'm
Yes.
always, I'm big on that, but I know that's not always the easiest thing to do, to just do something. So what I've instructed myself on and other people is do things in portions. We tend to procrastinate because we're mentally overwhelmed by how we perceive something, right? Man, that's going to be a big task. So I don't do anything, although I really, really want to. And I plan to tackle it today, but that's too huge of a task. So I don't touch it at all, because it's just that large of a feat. But what I began doing was just prioritizing things in portions. I just break things down literally into bite-sized pieces to where I know I can handle that little corner of that feat. I can handle that little portion. And it doesn't have to even be a third or a quarter. It can be less than that. I can handle that little corner or that little portion of what I desire to step into and begin working on. And that's all I'm going to work on. But what most people have to realize is you have to allow yourself to be satisfied with that small portion that you've worked on. Because if you don't allow yourself to be satisfied and have some gratification from that, you're not going to work on another small portion. Be okay saying, okay, I want to work out today. And you really want to work out today, but you may not have the full time for it to do an hour workout. Go and work out in an amazing way for 5 minutes. I mean it. And allow yourself to get some gratification from that. It's not the most ideal thing, but I promise you that 5 minutes is better than 0 minutes. You don't have to have the full thing today or all the time. Sometimes that little portion is what will lead you to 10 minutes the next time, or 15 minutes the next time, or 12 minutes, whatever. But we try to do it all at once, or we try to begin the whole process. Now, I don't think you can ever begin an entire process. So you have to just begin, a portion, a small part of it. And so for those that may procrastinate, just realize you might be procrastinating because you're overwhelmed by the first step or by the first 5 steps. Do half of the first step and allow yourself just to get started.
I love that so much. Just do it step by step by step. They should just add that on
Step.
the end of that Nike
Right.
tagline.
In parentheses, right, exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. I did that this morning, actually. I'm just about to launch my purpose-led podcast network, and
Awesome.
I've got
Nice.
a huge plan. I've got, your 30-day plan, your 60-day plan, your 90-day plan. It's all there. I've got the end goals, and I had this little task that was just grating on me. And this morning, guess what I did? I just did it. And it took me about 4 minutes. And I was like,
That's amazing, right?
why was I sitting on that for 3 weeks? It's just ridiculous. Yep. So, I really resonated with everything you just said then. That was super inspiring. So if you're sitting there, anyone listening to this, thinking like, I have been procrastinating on something for weeks or months or years, go today and do that first little thing that you can towards it, towards cracking that eggshell and getting inside that egg. That's so cool. Joel, what are you most proud of with your work and the people you work with and the things that you do on a daily basis?
At this point, my impact, I'll be honest, it's so fulfilling to know that, my words, my doings, my actions are inspiring and helping people. It feels, I didn't know as a child or even as a teenager that I would want to be in this space that I'm in. But it feels amazing. I'll be honest with you. And everything I do now, I feel like it's for that one purpose. It's to make an impact. It's to help other people. And it gets me out of having a bad day. When I'm having a bad day, I just think about a way I can give something to somebody. And all of a sudden I'm smiling. It's amazing that when I become selfless and out of that selfish space of I'm having a bad day, how things just turn around. Selflessness is like one of the keys to life. And I'm beginning to realize that, because I don't speak for myself. I'm speaking to help somebody else, the crowd that I'm talking to. And that's what I'm most proud of, for sure. It's the impact that I'm able to impart upon others.
So cool. You're such a cool person. I love everything that you talk
Thank you.
about. And I can't wait to see where this book takes you and the impact that you're going to leave on the world and on that beautiful little big man of yours.
Right,
I
exactly.
wonder if he's going to overreach you anytime soon.
I'm sure. The way I wasn't his size at his age, so I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Joel, for your time today. If anyone wants to reach out to you, buy your book, we'll put all your links into the show notes and link your Instagram profile and anything like that so people can chat to you directly. They can send you little paragraphs, snaps of the book if they've enjoyed it as well, because look how much Joel likes it, guys. You need to do that for him.
I
He,
would love it.
that's why you write books, so you reach people. So thank
Exactly.
you so much for your time and for everything you're doing for the collective.
Nah, Marissa, thank you so much. I mean it. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the show. What did you think? And what did you feel? Let us know by leaving me a message on the Things You Can't Unhear Instagram community page. And if you can, give us some ratings love on your favorite listening platform.